Welcome to panel 10A, Open Data for Anti-Corruption Case Studies from around the world. So to make it a real case studies from almost around the world, at least we focus now on Southeast Asian region. We have distinguished panelists from 3 countries at least, or 4 countries around the world. So may I introduce each of the panelists very briefly. So we'll start with Gigi or Thanisara Ruangdej. Hello, Gigi. So Gigi is the CEO and co-founder of Punch Up WeVis Thailand from Thailand, co-founder of the Studio and Citizen Technology or Civic Tech that emphasizes the use of information and technology to make information accessible, understandable, and easy to use to make decisions and discuss social issues creatively based on data, including driving public participation. So starting from 2019, with the Thai general election, then monitoring the performance of the political sector and auditing the government budget until present. Welcome, Gigi. Second in the panelists, we have Dewi Anggraeni, the Public Services and Bureaucracy Reform Division from Indonesia Corruption Watch. Welcome, Dewi. So Dewi is a researcher from ICW, or the renowned Indonesian Corruption Watch, with 9 years experience in preventing corruption in public sector, public service sector. Dewi Anggraeni is a part of ICW from Public Services and Bureaucracy Reform Division. She also conducts several advocacies using open data, particularly in the public procurement area, which we'll be talking about a little bit today. Welcome. And we will wrap up our session with Khairil Yusof, the program consultant of Sinar project from Malaysia. Khairil is a program consultant with a broad experience in managing, developing, and implementing innovative development programs for government, international organizations, and civil society that directly or indirectly involve digital technology with limited resources in politically or technically constrained environment, and extensive cross-practice and cross-sector experience implementing programs of UN agencies, governments, and civil society in Asia Pacific, including digital rights, human rights, labor rights, and environment. Her area of interest is in applying innovative methods of open data and standards for transparency and anti-corruption. Welcome, Khairil. So yes, we have distinguished panelists from at least 3 countries around the world. So open data, how it is used to fight corruption. We have had some discussion prior to this session about using transparency. We know that transparency would shed light on the public procurements and government activities, but how can it actually used to fight or prevent corruption? Has there been any case studies from where you have worked in, and what are the challenges, what are the opportunities that we could learn and perhaps share and might lead to our collaboration further after this session? So without further ado, may I start off this session with Gigi?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Thank you, Torplus, for introducing us, and it's my pleasure to be here today. And again, my name is Gigi. It's easier to call that way, and I'm from Thailand. And today I'm pleased to share with you some case studies about how we try to use open data to overcome the challenges when we try to tackle with the anti-corruption issue. And again, thank you, Torplus, for introducing me. But if you want to see more about my company, I own 2 companies, you can go to this website later. But I would like to emphasize that both of my company focus on main 3 goals when we're talking about the open data. The first thing is we try to provide accessibility to information. I believe in so many countries have no problem about this, but as well, so many countries still struggle with this too. I think when we talk about anti-corruption issue, we focus on the transparency and the rights to know, the rights to information first. But right now, Thailand is kind of, I think, in the middle way to fight for this, and maybe Khairil and Dewi can share more about their country. But right now we have some kind of solution and practice how to fight for the information to fight with the corruption in the future. And the other two goals that we try to reach is to increase the more efficient civic engagement when we deal with the open data and the corruption issue. And the other thing, we not think only about the citizens or the people, but we try to bridge the gap between the civil society and the public sector as well, because we believe that anti-corruption is not only one part of people, but we need to collaborate to create a kind of a successful story at the end of the day. So right now, I can share with you some challenges in my society, in my country, and how we try to overcome it. I will say it's kind of a success case or the best practice, but how we try for the past 4 years to fight with this challenge. And maybe it can be some takeaways for you to adopt something for your country or your society as well. When we talk about the open data for anti-corruption, I can kind of define some main three issues because it deals with a different stakeholder and different player. But this is something we need to overcome it at first, I think, to kind of tackle with the corruption issues. The first one, as I said, is about the right to know. And for the sake of transparency, is about limited access to information. Talking about access to information in my country, I can share the case which is quite current right now, because when we talk about the information in Thailand, we have two main problems. The first one is the data is not open at all, even we think it is a public data. For example, we request a lot for the expenditure of the public sector. In this case, I just request for the parliament expenditure. It's about the standing committee, how they spend our tax in the parliament. But it's sometimes the parliament said that this disclosure of the information will jeopardize the national financial security, which we do not agree at all, because if it deals with our tax, we as a taxpayer should have the right to monitoring it or investigating, and also ask the question back to the parliament. So right now we are in the process of appealing to the office of the prime minister. And the other aspect of the problem about the limited access to information is sometimes the data is open, but it's open in very poor format. Again, same with the national budget. I believe in so many countries have this kind of problem when we try to investigate some budget of our nation. For example, we want to know how they spend for the military budget or educational budget. We need to dig down into tons of paper. For example, in Thailand, they open this information, but in 900,000 PDF pages, and then divided into 30 books, ebooks. At least it's open on the website, but you need to open all 30 books to find only one item you are interested in. I think it put too much effort to the press, to the people to know about their tax, their money they pay every year to the government. So I think it's not fair for us. And even it's more simple information for about how their representatives work in the parliament. After the election, we want to know how our vote works in the parliament, right? But right now, if you want to track how the MP vote, how they get involved with each business, you will get this kind of documents. Sometimes it's better because it's kind of printed or scanned image on the website, but sometimes it's worse like this. It's a handwritten form that cannot even readable. So I think we need a room for improvement about the data that's already open, but make it more human readable and machine readable as well. So talking about this, how we try to tackle with the limited access to information in Thailand right now, we are in the process of calling for the amendment of the Information Act, because right now we call it Official Information Act, which give the power to the authority to decide whether this information should be open or closed. But in the ideal way, it should be open by default and with a good standard, leaving no cost to the people to requesting or managing it. So we are now in the process. Actually, we call for it for a long time, but now we enter the legal process to amend this Information Act. So I think it's kind of fixing the root cause of this problem. But we cannot wait only for the future. So right now we try to develop some technical solution to solve the problem about the non-structured data right now. So we develop some, in technical term, we call OCR tool and crowdsourcing digitization tools to turn the paper format into the digital and machine readable way. So people can explore the data and investigating the irregularity in the public sector right now. And I would say that this tool is open source, so you can find it in WeVis GitHub for the developers. Maybe you can adopt it, customize it, and use in your country as well. And the other challenge, I think, when we face with the open data for anti-corruption issue, is not about the data itself, but how we can use it in the efficient way. Because as I said, it's not about we just open the data, but who can use it and how will we use it. But right now in Thailand, I think we have a little bit problem and maybe a little bit struggle with creating participating process in public decision or public policy discussion, because I think there are two ways about this struggle. The first aspect is about the audience, the user, the people, the citizen itself, because not everyone have a kind of literacy, data literacy and numeracy. When you give them a kind of a 500,000 rows of Excel, not everyone can kind of manage or understand it, which is not their fault. But actually, maybe the civil society or the government itself can help them with some tools more easy to let them explore those data more easily. And the other aspect, I think, is about the organization, the institution itself, when they create the participating process. It's just like for the sake of the norm that they just have a checklist that they need to do, and they done it without thinking how they can use the results from the participation process and embed it in the policy decision process. It's not go together. It just make it happen. Sometimes we call democracy washing, because it just have a process but not use it in reality. So right now, how we try to overcome it? First, to solve the problem in the audience or the user way, we help them creating some, I would say it's a more user-friendly tools or platform that help people investigating data, so they can have more constructive debates or conversation on that, can use those data to ask more questions or maybe give more opinion about that issue. For example, right now we are developing the tools that called Parliament Watch tool, which is the open source as well. You can find on GitHub and then apply to your country as well. And for the aspect of working with the authority, right now we work with the budgeting department of Bangkok administration. And we try to embed budget voting in our tools for the budget visualization. And they will use the result from this platform to include in the policy process next fiscal year in allocating what the people want in each district. So I think it's not only about creating the tool, but also designing process, how the data, how the opinion will be used in the kind of a real policy making process as well. The last thing that we are now, I think we just start working on this is we find that even we creating a tool, we try to collaborate with some part of the process. We still face some kind of, we call it bureaucracy hurdles, because I think it's happened in maybe in almost every country when we need to deal with the public sector, because it's a big organs in the country. So we have, when we try to work with them and collaborate with them to help them promote the open data in their organization or creating participating process, we always face this kind of problem, because it's new to them. When we introduce something like open data, the tech tool to them, we need to face the kind of traditional culture and some kind of fear for the change in their organization. And it follow with a kind of lack of skills or capacity, and also sometimes lack of tools they can use in their organization. So how can we tackle it? It is, I don't think we just give them a guideline or developing them the website, but we need to work with them as a part of the team. For example, right now we are working with the parliament in the standing committee of the smart and open parliament. So it's not only just tell them what the data that they should open, but we need to help them how to do that, equip them with some knowledge. So it may take time, but I think in the long run, they can work for themselves, and then maybe can develop to the further things that we cannot imagine. So I think these are kind of example that we're starting from defining what are the challenges about how to adopt open data to tackle with anti-corruption issue in our country. And then we learn step by step how to work with the authority, work with the civil society, and which two are the solution to help them increase their awareness and ability to tackle the corruption issue themselves. So maybe I finish the first round like this, and if any question we can discuss further in the second round. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gigi. Very impressive work. Despite all the challenges, the data is not open, unstructured, non-computer readable, and I would say not just non-computer readable, but an ordinary person can't read some of the handwriting documents that you show. I think this is something that we faced in many areas all around the world, and the challenges that we share, but also the great thing about how your platforms are open source and could perhaps be used elsewhere as well. So that could be something that I'd like to talk, ask further in perhaps the next round. May I move to the second panelist here, Dewi from ICW. Do you be speaking in the first part of the session only, and you have to leave due to a family health issue? So thank you very much for that. But please, your session.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick. Yeah, hi, nice to meet you all, and thank you very much for inviting me to join this forum. I will share about what Indonesia and ICW do about open data for anti-corruption. And we can next. Yeah. If we talk about open data or Freedom of Information Act from Indonesia, Indonesians say information disclosure. So it's only in Indonesia, I think. About public information disclosure is a critical indicator of realizing a democratic country like Indonesia, and that priorities there are three: public participation, transparency, and accountability. Easy to access to information will have public oversight. Public oversight will increase transparency and accountability. So it's a flow between what we can contribute and the outcome or result. Next, yeah. And if we talk about the baseline or regulation in Indonesia, yes, Indonesia has regulations that guarantee data transparency. And this is about the law, Public Information Disclosure, law number 14, year 2008. This law mentioned all information is public information unless the information is declared confidential based on the provision regulated in the law. So we have right about information, all information. So public institution who get a budget like national or regional, they must open all information based on the law 14 2008. So if we talk about ideal condition and fact, public institution must provide all data without public request. So because this is the main principle, transparency, participant, and accountability. And after 15 years of the law, there are so many problems. And this is the fact. After 15 years, not all public institutions provide information, and then there is website with no useful information. So they yeah, I'm sorry. So they have a website, but with no information we can collect or analyze or very useful for public. And the other, public must follow information dispute. So we must follow information dispute 7 days and then 30 days, and it's so long if you once get information. And then public oversight in Indonesia, I think it's considered a threat. So government very sensitive with public oversight. And so the fact to get information in Indonesia now, after 15 years, law 15 to 2008, to get information, it's takes a long time until we can get information. And of course, if we win, so if you lose, you can get information. Okay, we can next slide. Yeah. We face some challenge to open data, and this is some challenge. There is 5 challenge minimal. I can say about challenge. First, information is not accessible, and then information management is not good. So they just get information but not collect and save and and then public institution have different paradigm about transparency. I can say they have transparency principle, but just once show the website but no information. And then they collect information if we ask about that information. And the other thing, ineffective process and takes long time to get one information. And there's also data from government that is used by public. And for example, procurement, general procurement data in Indonesia can be accessed, and institution procurement institution is open for sharing system data with ICW, so for example. Okay, we can next. This is if we talk about procurement, information disclosure on procurement. So corruption, I think it's not only in Indonesia but the other country, procurement corruption increase every year. And the effect, of course, a lot of public facilities or public goods have bad quality. And about that, ICW has advocacy, open data on many issues like procurement, and then education, health, politics, and law. In procurement issues, since 2018, ICW has pushed information disclosure on procurement. Why? Because we think corruption procurement increase every year, and then the effect, and then the various modules. So I think it's important to collaborate about corruption in procurement. Yeah, this is one of our advocacy, and so we start 2018 until 2020. 2020, we proposed to open contracting, and the result is when in 2021, the Information Commission in Indonesia set policy about the tile open contracting. So it's public information now. Okay, we can next slide. Yeah, this is just for example or what ICW do in Indonesia. Monitoring procurement, we call opentender.net. Yeah, this is just little overview. Monitoring procurement, collaborate with procurement institution in Indonesia, and then to collect and analyze data, and it can access with all public, just not only governance, and it can show potential fraud with 3 levels: red color, yellow color, and green color in public procurement. So red, it means have a high potential fraud, and this start since 2013 with MOU. So we have a long time advocacy for this procurement to decrease corruption in procurement. And then besides that, ICW upgrade and developing a platform suitable with advocacy needs. And this platform data use with all people in Indonesia, like governance, journalists, NGO, student, and the other. Okay, we can next. Yeah, this is about politician track record. So beside procurement, ICW so focus in politics, and yeah, in Indonesia next year or in 2019, 4 years ago, we have situation about election, and it's so busy in media or social media, or if we talk in NGO and governance and the other place, it's so complicated issue about track record politician. Why we think it's important to open data, open information, or public can access easy about track record, because we think it's a main principle before you vote. So it's for example, in platform we develop in ICW, we can and we serve about world report, educational background, and standing about public issues in Indonesia or in another country. We can next. Yeah, can scroll down. Okay. Yeah, with for example, this is the surface from rekamjejak.net. Indonesian says rekamjejak.net. We serve provide data about family, about business, or wealth report. If we talk about with open wealth report, public can assess the honesty of public officials by compare what is report and the result. So public when can know if report is false or manipulated. It's what public can do about well report. And okay, about family, yeah, about family we can we can we can know about their relation or maybe future in lobbying and the other. And then about business, we can know about what he or she does and will have maybe conflict of interest or not in governance. And we can move to last slide. Yes, this is ICW suggest about opportunity. Maybe we can together or Indonesia, Bangkok, and Malaysia, and we can develop a platform together that contains politician track record maybe or procurement and this across the country. So this is from me. I'm apologize about my noise in back. So thank you very much, and back to you, Nick.
Thank you very much, Dewi. Don't apologize. It's all right. Thank you very much for being here with us this morning, despite the issue, the challenges. And so from your presentation, I could see that many of the challenges that you face and GG face pretty similar. Data is not accessible, only available upon request, high transaction costs to get these information, and it's becoming a big obstacle for empowering people in a democratic world. And it's also interesting to see that many of the platforms that you have worked on is quite similar to some of the part that GG and perhaps Khairil will be talking about. OpenTender.net, parliamentary tracking, and you ended with an opportunity of a platform that contains politicians' track record across the country, which is really interesting. And because if you have heard, there are so many cases of politicians in Thailand stole money from from a company in Malaysia, bought a land in Indonesia, perhaps, and then but live happily in London. So this happened all the time, and it's very difficult for each individual countries, civil society in particular countries to track. So if we can collaborate on this at this level, that would be very, very interesting. But I won't talk too much into that because we have Khairil to kind of wrap up everything for us and for me as well as a moderator. So may I ask you to start, Khairil? Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, thanks, Torplus, for having me here. So yep. So on my side, I'm gonna be talking about how to collaborate. I'm not gonna repeat, as you said rightly, so that it's difficult in terms of the situation in getting data. And when I mean constrained environments, whether it's politically or technical, as we shared, sometimes it's not in structured formats. Sometimes it's poorly scanned data. Sometimes it's in books that sometimes you can't even get it. So all the experiences that ICW faced, as well as WeVis in Thailand, were exactly the same situation that we faced in Malaysia. And it's actually quite common, especially in the area of anti-corruption. Yeah, and this is globally as well. So in terms of like the global data barometer, when it comes to data, especially around anti-corruption and transparency, in terms of like asset declaration, political finance, right to information, the global score is actually 25 out of 100. In terms of, so while certain things like procurement data might be available, in general, when we're looking at a lot of the information that we need for anti-corruption, usually it's not available. So, yep, again, I'm not going to go into detail on this, as fellow panelists have already shared quietly. Lack of quality, granular, open data, unstructured data, handwritten notes. And also, we shared sometimes that you can have a restrictive legal environment, lack of a right to information law or freedom of information law, official secrets acts, and also various other laws, for example, that restrict media freedom or even constrain collaborations, for example, with government officials in sharing information. So these are all common issues across. So the first time that we face this issue, and this is one example, was a common situation, and I think WeVis is doing a great job in terms of building a website to make access to politicians more accessible. Just getting that basic data to be able to do applications was difficult. So the first time that we found out that so in Malaysia, we actually failed a few times to try to build these applications and try to get the data. So the first time that, and one of the challenges was how should the structured data look like? And if we had a good definition of what it is, that would allow us to be able to, build the applications and do the analysis that we need. So for the first time for us was when Myanmar had their first elections. There was about a coalition of about 10 different NGOs who all had information and collecting information on the elections in different pieces, but there was no easy way to get them together, to piece it together. Nobody knew what it should be. So we actually used an open data standard for Popular to actually just use that as a reference for a spreadsheet where everybody could do it. And once we had it, that data in the spreadsheet collected by the different NGOs, it enabled folks to build, mobile applications, websites, and so on, to get better access to the elected representative in, I think it's under 2 weeks. It was pretty fast if they had the data. And we were then able to do, work with that data to do various analysis and so on. So that was the first time that we found out that we could do international collaborations using an international data standard, building an experience of Malaysia, and then working with folks in Myanmar partner to implement it in their local context. So basically we started learning. It's like, okay, this is a really hard problem. Getting data is so difficult. Getting structured data is also difficult. So it's quite hard to get it right the first time. And that's when we learned that even when we don't have the open data, if there are good defined data standards on the structure of what the data should be captured, it can help us either enable collaborations or at least build things. So usually I explain this in this situation. So quite usually we would have incomplete random pieces of information, bits and pieces of information, and we often feel that we don't have enough data or information to build something. So at least if we had a data standard or on how the data should be structured, at least even if it's missing, it's a little bit clearer now on exactly what we're missing. And for those of us who are building kind of applications or data analysis, at least we can actually start kind of building the applications, even though certain things are missing, because we at least have some structure. The other situation can also be a lot of data, where thousands of documents are just dumped, and you're not exactly sure how to piece it together. And if we knew exactly what we need to look for, then the situation would be much more clearer in terms of exactly what we're missing and what we're able to do. So in Malaysia, we learned that if we follow this approach, we know, and it's one way, just like the spreadsheet that I shared. It allows us to collaborate with different partners, have different pieces of this information. Everybody's clear about what is needed and what's missing. And then once we have the structured data, especially if it's based on international open data standards, we know, because different people have been using it, that it will be able to do different things with it, right? So as a result, everybody benefits from collecting this data and collaborating for it. So in Malaysia, just quickly, we were able to build something similar to Rekam Jejak from ICW. Again, common things based on these standards. And then again, it allows us to do the innovations that's possible with the data. So here, I think we were raised by Panchapa WeVis. It's like, how do we, there's a lack of diversity sometimes in terms of the actors in working. How do we get more people to collaborate and, contribute towards these efforts in getting data, but not just getting data, as WeVis was sharing or TT was sharing, but also how can it actually be useful and impactful by others. So on a technical level, it's contributing, at least for us, working in civic tech and open data or data visualizations, is for us to contribute our use cases. So towards these standards to make them better. So a perfect example, when Sinar project first started adopting the standards, the Popular standard was supposed to be storing just information on politicians. And us as Malaysians said, wait, politicians are also businessmen, as I think colleagues from Indonesia or Thailand to be familiar with. So we started putting all the politicians into this database that was meant for politicians and their business positions held. And people said that, you're kind of abusing the standard for things that are not supposed to be done. And then later on, when Donald Trump got elected, suddenly people realized, these things are important to measure. And this is where, one example where, a more diverse set of experience and use cases in Southeast Asia, but not just Southeast Asia, but around the world. When we say, when we give feedback on, how the standards are not, there's improvements to their standards that can help us for our specific use cases, it will actually help everybody else involved. So this kind of things then led to, being able to do joined up data of, for example, politicians and businesses and interests. So in terms of, I think that was already suggested by Indonesia Anti-Corruption or ICW. One low-hanging fruit that we can do is actually build and publish an open standard database of politically exposed persons and their close relationships in ASEAN. Another way to help out on this is also to publish open data standards of sanctioned individuals and companies. So this is, this is something that should be easy to do, something that we're all working on. And if we have a standardized set of data on this, we can easily share the data between each other. And have, and deal with transnational or cross-border crime and corruption. Other things that we could work on is, standards or data structures that are missing. So there's still a lot of work that still needs to be done in terms of, collecting things around extractive licensing, like mining and so on. Natural resources. There's a lot of environmentalists working around this area. There's a cross issue with corruption on this. And again, sometimes the data structures are not quite there yet. And this is something that, we can also collaborate with our existing partners and bringing our expertise. Another suggestion that's possible, we're all trying to build kind of, greater accountability and access to our decision makers or elected representatives, is to just define a good electoral data standard in terms of what election commissions should publish. So there's several elections this year, and to this date, I couldn't find a good one in which there was a good standard that we could approach elections commissions and say, okay, when you do elections, we would like you to publish this set of data, and this is how it should look like. So this is another one that will be super helpful in the sense that we will be able to get a good set of structure, if possible, from the elections commissions to be able to build and do and work with the data that we need. And then my final thought, I think we can also discuss in more discussions, is to widen the ecosystem of collaboration. So I've got these two characters that have protested in Malaysia. super hot in a tropical country like Malaysia. They dressed up as dinosaurs and basically their sign, this is an anti-corruption thing, and saying that, dinosaurs are also against corruption. So there's a large wide of characters and parties and interests, interested in this. Beyond your usual anti-corruption activists. And one final case study I want to share with this is my experience with working with media and how it creates, different ideas about how we do things. So WeVis or TT just shared with WeVis, for example, a situation of, how difficult it is to get some information using OCR and so on. And one interesting thing for me that led to media collaborations was that when I was trying to do those same things and trying to get the information, when I submitted the work that we did at Sinar to the Global Investigative Journalist Network, and I said, I'd like to join as a participant in one of your events. This is what I've done, and I would like to learn more. They looked at how hard it was for me to get the information and the techniques that we use to get the information. And they said, we'd like you to talk about these things in terms of, as a panelist for media and investigations. So that's when I started realizing there's a lot of things that are in common. So this particular example is a common complaint that we often have when we're collecting and this data or collecting is people often say like, how is your data trustworthy? Where is its sources? Can you believe, can we trust this data that you're collecting and publish? And can we be able to use it? So when we were trying to build relationships similar to what ICW was or anti-corruption Indonesia was trying to do with Rekam Jejak, we found out it's like, whoa, we need to be very careful exactly how we define this relationship, and what data that we put in has to be, substantiated and to a certain thing. So we worked with media and we learned it's like, okay, since you have to publish these stories saying such and such politician is a brother or so, or a father-in-law or sister-in-law or cousin for this project, and you have to publish this news without getting in trouble for it. So we worked with media and said, okay, we know how to define this data in this relationships in data, but we need to know exactly how do we do this in a safe manner that's consistent. So we worked with media and says, okay, let's define what an associate is. And when it's okay to put an associate and publish that data, we use their standards for these things in the relationships that they build. Even, for example, including romantic partners. So even the gossip magazines, it's like, when can we say such and such person, is gifting this condominium for, a romantic partner and so on. And as a result of this, we had better data, but we also allowed media to, see it, what value that they bring in with the data that they're collecting. And we also built trust in terms of the data that we were extracting. So when I'm building these relationships, I can trust that these are verified by independent media to at least some certain standard that we can be behind this data that we're publishing on these relationships. And then we could show with media, it's like, okay, look, all this work that you've done, the relations that you built, this is how it looks with data, and this is how we can work together. So that's just one example of extending the relationships with media, but it can be with any other groups. So I'll just end with this parting thing where, when we're doing organizations, whether it's funder, partners, or even ourselves, I think we need to, when we're doing this designing programs, we need to think about possible ideas on how to address corruptions as a very diverse group of reinforcing ecosystem of partners. Which partners should we looking at? And think outside of the box with partners that we might not be. So yeah, I'll be interested to learn from other partners, like what are these kind of, diverse or strange partners and examples that they've worked with that, that would enable us to do more of this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Khairil. This is fascinating. I just think that we should start working on something. Otherwise, we'll be keeping talking about our works and our success and our failure in the next 2-3 years without having anything to do work together. So we should start something together. Really, we still have some. The next part will be kind of the wrapping up and then Q&A at the same time because we have a few minutes left. But before we go to the Q&A part, each of you like to add anything else after you have listened to your colleagues talking in that part already? Maybe we can go back again to Gigi and in order. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I think I can, after hearing Devi and Khairil talk about the opportunity, I can add something a little bit more, because I do agree that right now it's not about the problem of one country, but we can see so many cases, just like a Paradise Paper or one MDB, that is across the border issue. So I think apart from Khairil also suggests about a lot of technical and practice, and also Devi. So I think maybe we can do something like I'm thinking about the pooling resources as well, apart from the program, because sometimes we struggle with the same problem. We lack of human resource, we lack of financial supports. So we can start like a pooling resource to share together, apart from sharing platform or sharing data. And as I do agree with the standards, because apart from setting the way of work of the people in this area, it also can put the kind of pressure to the state, to the government, that if we have this standard, we can share and we can work together with other countries in our region, maybe, or across the regions as well. And the other thing, maybe we can come up with kind of a joint research project or joint campaign each year to make this issue more kind of familiar, not only in the people in this field, but in other fields. For example, like a kind of marketing campaign, but it's a anti-corruption issue campaign each year. So apart from our region, maybe we can see how the campaign look like in other part of the world as well. So I think it's fun. It's a fun work, I think. I don't know. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I do agree. But before I talk too much, thank you, Gigi. Devi, you're back with us. Would you like to add something to this?
Yeah. Maybe I can add about corruption is borderless, so we can collaborate. Indonesia or Malaysia or Bangkok. So we can collect data information, and we can get what the main or from data we can use for journalists or news in each country. So I think it's collaborate is important, because corruption is borderless, not in just Indonesia, if we speak just Indonesia, but Indonesian, we can say have maybe like corruption, they do corruption too in the other country.
Thank you, Dewi. Yes. Khairil, please.
Yeah, and another thing that we learn about collaboration is that, especially regional or cross-border, is that quite often each of our countries have specific constraints that it will be almost impossible to break out sometimes, depending on the situation. But at the same time, each of our different countries also have certain strengths. So that the example that I shared in Myanmar was a good example where in Malaysia we were building these tools and then nobody cared, right? So we were building all these, collecting the electoral data and nobody cared. But then when we applied the same thing in Myanmar and helped them work on it, for them it was their first elections. It was getting these. Everybody was super excited in that country, so the impact was really big. And then, another example would be, for example, even in terms of reporting by media, for places like, say, Malaysia with less media freedom, and where Indonesia has more. Again, you can collaborate where, the story would be published in Malaysia, in Indonesia for work in Indonesia. And again, pooling of resources. I would love to work with TD because everybody keeps asking us to do more data visualizations and we don't have the resources for that. So even again, like the example that I had with Kenya, I had the data, I had the structure with the media organizations had the data, but somebody had to build, how the tool to make it interactive and work and which resource. So again, these sort of collaborations enable us to do things that we would not be able to do alone, either individually as organizations or within our respective countries. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Khairil, and everyone. I just say, let's do it. I forgot to introduce myself in the first part. My name is Torplus Yomnak. I'm the director of the Knowledge Hub for Regional Anti-Corruption based in Chulalongkorn University. So with that, I'd like to take this opportunity to offer to be a host for a workshop that we can come and work together seriously on perhaps creating a collaborative ASEAN Electoral Commission standard platform or sanction individuals and companies to be shared within our region or internationally. That would be a first step, because I've seen the KPK, the NACC, the National Anti-Corruption Commission, they try to work together, but like as far as I can see, there are so many MOUs and like agreements signed, but not actual platform that can be utilized. So why don't we start off something, and it might lead to something else. Would like to ask the global initiatives to support us if possible as well. But yeah, that would be fun and then very constructive to work on. I have several questions from the audience here. In the several questions that we have. So one of the questions is, I'm impressed by the work ongoing across the region, also fascinating that many challenges are shared and similar in nature, right? Can the panelists please elaborate a bit on whether they feel any of these challenges are particular to Southeast Asia, and or are they shared across other regions and countries as well? Would anyone like to respond to this? Is it like ASEAN thing? But I don't think so. I think other countries in other regions do share. Please help me.
I think some issue were widely shared, because I used to talk with some people that dealing with the anti-corruption issue in South Africa or even in Latin America, and also some part of Europe. Even we see them as developing countries, they still struggle. Maybe they struggle less with their open data. They get the data, but they still struggle with the process of civic engagement. How can they encourage people to be actively monitoring them, because they may have a different context, because maybe they trust more in the government. But as I think we discussed, it's not about the only part of the society, but we need to work together in collaboration. And I think, especially in my opinion, in the global South, we share a similar challenges in tackle with this issue, because maybe you and Khairil can see when you go for the international conference, these issues still pop up in the conversation, even in other parts of the world.
Yeah, I agree. This is not it's common. It's not limited to Southeast Asia. So the examples I shared before is like, when I went to Kenya, when they said like, can you work on this procurement? When we had discussions, we were like, oh, it's the same there. We just so we actually could understand exactly the same problems that Indonesia was facing about politicians and their relations and family and so on, getting contracts and whatnot. And to share that example on the popular standard for storing legislative information about legislators, that standard is, and the problems that standard was trying to solve is, being adopted in Taiwan, Malaysia. I think it was also opened up South Africa, UK, and I think Canada. Yeah, so a whole lot of different countries. So I don't think these are all common things. So I think having kind of these certain international standards will be really helpful, because I think if any fix, for example, let's say done in another country, will be applicable to Southeast Asia as well for these common things. So yeah, we would all benefit.
Thank you. And may I add that if I understand correctly, there's a precedence case of an application called Development Check that used by almost more than 10 countries, especially in African countries. And it's an anti-corruption platform, crowdsourcing, and it's quite effective in various countries as well. Another question is, how well supported are your initiatives? I think this is for all of us. by the general public in your country?
Yeah, maybe from Indonesia. In my opinion, public support in Indonesia is big and that's great. But ICW think some people or public they don't know about what they can do with data, open data, or data from governance. So this maybe can one or two or maybe more suggestion for public what they can do with this data, like procurement in open tender or track record in rekam jejak in Indonesia. So we appreciate about public support, but I think public support is need some initiative or some suggestion for what they can do.
Thank you, Dewi. How about in Malaysia and in Thailand?
I can add a little bit more. I think we see there a lot of attention from the general public, especially this year, because we have the general election that in the middle of the year. I think it becomes more and more interesting for the people because we can see the effect when the data come into the action. I mean, the first effect is we see the anti-corruption and lack of transparency, lack of accountability turn into other problems, not just kind of the fraud, money, but it turns into the barrier of development of the country. So when they track the root cause, it's about the corruption issue. So they quite interest more and want to investigate more in this issue. And also we see some success. I would say some successful case in our country, even is not a lot of case, but we see that the effect after we track down some corruption issue, we see the improvement in some fields. So I think they get more and more interest. But I think it's also our challenge how to keep this momentum apart from the cycle of the election. It should be a sustainable issue, not just an event-based case. So I think we need to work more on that. Yeah.
Wow. So hope and challenges. Khairil.
Yeah, I mean, the general public is a pretty big thing. So I don't think I would love to have civic tech and data be, you know, as popular as Taylor Swift or BTS, but that would be quite difficult. So I'm coining the fact that, you know, it's only going to be a small subset of people that are going to care about this schema definitions of beneficial ownership, for example, or even some. But what I found is that the ones that are accepted by the public is actually the amazing work that we do in support of our partners. So, for example, when we made parliamentary documents more accessible, and one of the questions was a partner on, you know, incarceration of children in immigration detention centers. We facilitated, yes, but the bigger public issue was actually raised by the, you know, advocates and NGOs that were advocating for immigration detention reform and rights of children, and that got a lot of impact. So I would say, the initiatives specifically that I probably not, but the initiatives that are in support of our partners who do amazing work and enabling them, those are the ones I think that are going to be get a lot of support from the general public. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that because we are running out of time now, so that wraps up everything very well. Thank you very much for that, Khairil. So at finally here in our last minute here, I'd like to thank you, the panelists, all the three panelists, Gigi from Thailand, Khairil from Malaysia, Dewi from ICW Indonesia. I hope next time that we meet, I could say that not from each country, but as an ASEAN regional anti-corruption collaboration platform, that we could probably work together. And I would again offer that opportunity for us to come and collaborate, whether we go to Indonesia, Malaysia, invite you to Thailand, and start working on something, because it will lead to big impact. As Khairil has put it, it might not be as impactful as it should be in somewhere, but it might be more impactful in somewhere in some other areas than we can expect. So that would be a good start. We haven't had anything like this before, right? any ASEAN anti-corruption platform by Civic Tech. No, no one have heard about this, right? So we'll be the first. It'll be fun, and with support from the GI, that it would make it possible. So yes, again, thank you all the participants, the audience, the panelists, and thank you Global Initiative for allowing us to meet this morning and to share our thoughts and experiences. So I'd like to end our session here exactly on time. Thank you very much again. So have a great day. Have a great conference in the next 20-ish hours. Okay. Thank you. สวัสดีครับ
Thank you.
Thank you for
Goodbye.
having us.